I don't believe anyone would argue with the fact that trust in our student aid system has been shaken. That's why we're here this morning, after all. So at the very outset of this hearing, I believe all of us can agree on a very basic yet vital goal for this hearing and the process that will follow it, and that should be to begin restoring that trust. The question that we will face during the coming weeks and months will be how to meet that goal. There are a variety of reform proposals on the table already, here in Washington, in Mr. Cuomo's state capital, and by organizations throughout the nation. And I believe that's extraordinarily healthy because this effort will require all stakeholders in the system to step up. That means lenders, colleges, the education department, states, and Congress all have a role to play. And where certain stakeholders don't step up, this committee may be forced to step in. Let me give you an example. Several years ago, when I served as chairman of the Higher Education Subcommittee, I urged financial aid administrators to work with other industry partners in adopting a series of recommended practices that would have helped deal with many aspects of the very situation we're presented with this morning, such as a lack of disclosure for students and a lack of clarity with regard to preferred lender lists. In short, they did not act quickly enough, and now it looks as if the committee is poised to do so. If we do step in, Mr. Chairman, it should be for a very straightforward reason: to ensure this system continues to serve the needs of the students who depend on it for a chance at a college education. This isn't about us versus the lenders or us versus the financial aid officers. This is about direct loans versus FFEL. And for the record, I continue to strongly support the private sector-based program and healthy competition between the government-run direct loan program and the private sector FFEL-based program. No, this is about millions of young men and women who expect our student aid system to be there for them when they need it. By keeping our eyes fixed squarely on what best serves their needs, we'll be well on our way to restoring trust in the system. With this in mind, earlier this week, Mr. Keller and I introduced comprehensive legislation to address many of the issues which will be discussed at today's hearing. The Financial Aid, Accountability, and Transparency Act builds on some of the recommendations you introduced earlier this year, Mr. Chairman. Like your bill, we do not explicitly outlaw the practice of preferred lender lists. Rather, we reform this practice to ensure that it continues to serve the interests of students. And like your bill, ours aims to protect against conflict of interest between lenders and financial aid officers. However, our bill goes even further than those introduced by congressional Democrats. For example, it asks colleges and universities to develop their own unique codes of conduct that must include restrictions on gifts, payments, stock, and anything else that may give the appearance of a conflict of interest between financial aid officers and lenders. Rather than simply requiring the reporting of it, our bill also bans revenue sharing between lenders of private loans and colleges or universities. This practice already is illegal with regard to federal loans, and it's my view that it should be for private loans as well. Instead of requiring even more lender and institutional reporting to the Department of Education, our bill requires extensive disclosure to students, particularly on matters relating to their financial aid rights, preferred lender lists, and the like. And finally, and perhaps most importantly, our bill explicitly allows an institution to negotiate lower interest rates or fees on loan products for their students and parents. Why is this language in the bill? Some may ask. Simply put, it benefits students. Mr. Keller and I would not propose restrictions that in any way short-circuit a student's ability to get a better deal. With all of that said, Mr. Chairman, I believe that we can see a great deal of bipartisan cooperation on this issue during the coming weeks and months. Despite some of the sensationalized press reports that have followed these investigations, we must not lose sight of the fact that the federal financial aid system must work for students and colleges alike. We must be careful not to overreach, as Congress does all too often. But we do need to restore trust in the system. Once again, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Mr. Cuomo, I look forward to your testimony.